there's one simple practice from an unlikely source that will help you keep the conversation open, reduce defensiveness, and create more readiness for change. What is it? Keep watching. In an earlier video, I talked about the pressures that you as leaders often feel to have the answers and protect your credibility. And when leaders feel challenged or that their competence is being tested, conversations can often shut down. One of the most useful conversation techniques I learned came from a game we played in an improv course I took over a decade ago. I didn't expect it to become such a powerful leadership and communication tool. However, I find when I apply this technique, especially when I feel challenged or I'm not sure of a response, it keeps the conversation open and reduces potential conflict. It gives another option besides pushing harder or pulling away to avoid conflict. The technique is simple. You respond to whatever the other person says with yes and. Now, I can hear some of you saying, oh, wait a minute. What if I don't agree with what they're saying? Well, that's the beauty of the yes and technique. The yes and doesn't signal agreement. It signals acknowledgement that you heard what they said and that you are willing to stay in the conversation. It's not about endorsing every idea. It's about acknowledging what is present before adding context, options, constraints, or your own perspective. Like any communication technique, the usefulness of the yes and depends on clarity. Keeping a conversation open, great. However, if the purpose of your conversation isn't clear, you can still create confusion and conflict. So, before you begin any conversation, it's helpful to do two things. First, set the intention to have a conversation. A conversation is different than telling, persuading, or selling. It's an exchange, and it begins with the belief that everyone has something to contribute and learn. Second, set a clear purpose for the conversation and ensure the people that are involved know the purpose. The purpose tells everyone what kind of conversation it is and signals what is the intent so they can contribute. For example, do you want to explore their understanding or their reaction to a change that you are proposing? Or are you wanting to share your perspective and then gain other perspectives about a particular topic or issue? Or are you evaluating options or making a decision? Clarity matters. One conversation, one purpose. Without a clear purpose, people can easily start responding to the conversation they think they are in rather than the one you have intended to have. And when that happens, it's easy for misunderstanding and defensiveness to grow. For example, when you're introducing a new idea without clarifying why you are sharing it, people often move quickly to share what is wrong with it or why it might not work. And if you are expecting enthusiasm or an immediate endorsement, it can be tempting to interpret that response as resistance. It's not. It may simply be that people think their role is to evaluate what they are hearing. If instead you make it clear that the purpose of the conversation is to explore the idea together, to understand what works, what doesn't, and then receive the feedback. You can get that feedback as information rather than it being perceived as a threat. And that creates a much stronger foundation for openness, learning, and movement. So once you're clear on the purpose of your conversation, the yes and technique can be a practical and useful way of keeping the conversation open and productive. Let's explore a little bit of what it looks like to use this technique. Before we practice, remember this: the technique doesn't require you to agree with what's been said. It is simply an acknowledgement that you heard what was said before you bring your perspective or respond. And this small shift can have a dramatic impact on the conversation because it makes it easier for people to stay present and prevents a defensive response. So let's explore 2 examples of what it could look like in practice. Let's say someone raises a concern about your proposed change and you have already thought about it. A common response might be, we've already addressed that, so it's no longer something we need to worry about. In that response, the person can easily feel dismissed and may then continue to bring it up until they feel they've been heard. A yes and response could be, yes, I can understand why that's a concern for you, and knowing it will help us assess what's needed to move forward with this change. Or an alternative might be, yes, I can understand why that is a concern for you, and that's why we or I, and then explain what you did to address that concern. Here's another example. Someone tells you the proposed change that you've been working on for months has been done before, and it didn't work. A typical response, a defensive response might be, we've been through this, and we just need to move forward. Then you silently conclude they're just resistant to change. A yes and response could be, yes, we have tried this before, and we learned a lot about what worked and why it didn't work. That will help us avoid past mistakes and be successful. And then you could ask a question. What is an idea that you have that will enable success? Okay, it's your turn to try it out. Take a moment, pause the video, and think of a situation or a conversation. Where could you use the yes and to keep the conversation open? Write it in the comment section. This technique is great for building readiness for change. The power of this communication technique is not just about improving the tone of your conversation. It's that it helps to build readiness for change. Change requires people to engage, to be willing to let go and explore alternatives, to step outside of their comfort zone. This technique helps people do that, to build the readiness needed to make adopting something new possible, because they are heard and feel heard, and concerns and reactions are not dismissed. They remain open to do the real work of change. And that openness is essential. Readiness is built in the moments when people feel safe enough to question, to reflect, and engage with something new. I had no idea how useful this technique would be when I learned it in the improv class so long ago. But over the years, I've seen how it can reduce conflict and enable conversations that may not have been possible otherwise. It's also not a magic bullet. It won't prevent all disagreements or eliminate conflict completely, but it can help you stay in the conversation with less defensiveness, frustration, and with the opportunity for shared thinking. And when you are wanting change in your organization, that kind of openness makes a difference. If you're ready to explore this and other communication techniques to build readiness through the Readiness Mindset, click the link in the description box and let's have a conversation. Bye for now.